Imagine this, a spacecraft the size of a car drifting alone through the void, 14.5 billion miles away from home, carrying with it not just human technology, but a heartbeat, a voice. For nearly 5 decades, Voyager 1 has been sailing through space, whispering secrets from the edge of our known universe. It was built to observe, but never to act, to listen, but never to speak. And yet, just weeks ago, something changed. Signals began arriving that made no sense. Pulses with impossible precision, patterns nested within patterns, instruments turning on without command. And then came the drift. Voyager wasn't just moving anymore. It was being guided towards something that defies logic, something invisible to every telescope we possess, yet real enough to bend the trajectory of a machine launched in 1977. Was it malfunction, coincidence, or was something out there in the darkness between stars responding? What you're about to see is not science fiction. These are NASA's own findings, carefully buried in classified reports, now leaking into public view. Because Voyager may have just done what no probe in history has ever accomplished. It may have found a response, not from Earth, not from us, but from them. Voyager 1's journey began with a rare cosmic alignment, a window that only opens once every 175 years. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune had lined up like stepping stones across the solar system, and NASA seized the opportunity to build two spacecraft, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, that could ride the gravity of each planet as a slingshot to the next. The engineering marvels of the 1970s, these probes were built with less computing power than a digital wristwatch, yet designed with such foresight that they're still functioning today. After breathtaking encounters with Jupiter and Saturn, Voyager 1 turned northward, out of the ecliptic, out of the plane of the solar system, and toward the stars. Its planetary mission was over, but its legacy was only beginning. Over the decades, it continued its silent voyage, moving 1 million miles a day into the cosmic dark. It transmitted data from regions no human creation had ever reached, the edge of the heliosphere, the termination shock, and finally, in 2012, the threshold into interstellar space itself. But out there, beyond the sun's protective bubble, the environment was far from empty. Voyager recorded denser plasma, unchanging magnetic fields, and strange oscillations that scientists could barely explain. The deeper it went, the stranger the data became. And then something changed. In late 2017, Voyager's control team at NASA noticed something deeply troubling. Its antenna, which should have been aligned with Earth, was reporting a misalignment, but the signal strength was perfect, as if the spacecraft was both out of position and yet still precisely locked onto us. It was like hearing someone speak from behind a wall while watching them stand silently in front of you. Internal checks revealed nothing wrong. Then came the wave patterns, rhythmic plasma oscillations that didn't fade, didn't scatter, and didn't match anything we'd ever seen before. And then, temperature spikes. Every 4.8 hours, Voyager's external systems would heat up by nearly 30 degrees, then cool back down like clockwork, like breathing. The energy wasn't coming from inside. Something external was touching the probe. Worse still, despite the stress, Voyager systems began to operate more efficiently. This wasn't degeneration, this was optimization. Something was modifying how the 1970s machine processed energy, rerouting power like a modern AI. But Voyager doesn't have AI, it doesn't have autonomy, and yet it was anticipating commands, reacting before instructions were sent. Either it had become something more or something out there had taken the controls. By early 2025, Voyager 1's position was off. Not wildly, but just enough to notice. A few kilometers at first, then hundreds, then thousands. The deviation wasn't erratic. It was purposeful, measured, as if Voyager were being nudged deliberately towards something. Engineers at JPL tried to correct it. They sent countercommands, fired backup thrusters. Voyager acknowledged the instructions, but didn't change course. It was as if something was overriding NASA's commands. Like a ship changing tack against the wind, Voyager was making slow, calculated adjustments. And the destination, a patch of space 4.3 light-years away. Nothing known is there. No stars, no planets, just a blank spot on our deepest maps. But Voyager is going to it with precision, as if answering a call. When NASA sent the command to reactivate Voyager's long-dead camera system, a Hail Mary attempt to see what lay ahead, they expected silence. What they got was a response. The camera came online, not just online, but functioning better than its specs allowed. And it didn't send a photo, it sent a spiral, not a random swirl, but a mathematically perfect pattern, layered, concentric, dense with information, a fingerprint, a map, a message. This image wasn't just strange. It was impossible for Voyager's 1970s hardware to create. The system hadn't just been reactivated, it had been reprogrammed. One by one, other long-dormant instruments followed, and none of them behaved like they used to. Instead of raw data, they sent compressed structured packets, patterns within patterns. Information that appeared optimized by something smarter than Voyager, something other. And then came the timing. Pulses from distant pulsars arranged in a 3D web with Voyager at the center. The map they created pointed toward the same point Voyager was drifting to, an invisible node in interstellar space, a blank region, or maybe a doorway. As Voyager 1 approached the uncharted sector in space, its instruments began to behave in ways never documented before. The magnetometer started detecting not fluctuations, but stabilization. A zone of eerie calm in a universe otherwise turbulent. Cosmic rays dropped, plasma density normalized. It was like Voyager had crossed into a pocket of space where chaos paused, as if someone had cleared the path ahead. This silence wasn't peaceful, it was surgical, like an anti-chamber before something monumental. This region, which mission logs dubbed the Dark Sector, is an interstellar blind spot, a place devoid of the electromagnetic noise that fills the rest of space. It was as if Voyager had entered a vacuum of observation, a region where no external data passed through and no light returned. But within this void, the signals Voyager received became stronger, more structured. They weren't random bursts or cosmic static. They were pulses, precise, timed, and spatially layered. Something was there, not emitting radiation, not reflecting light, but sending messages. In one of the most bizarre transmissions ever received from an interstellar probe, Voyager's low-gain antenna emitted a packet of raw binary code, thousands of lines. Initially dismissed as a glitch or cosmic ray interference, the signal was passed to AI decoding algorithms which revealed something staggering: embedded fractal symmetry, base force sequencing, and repeating motifs that mirrored the double helix structure of DNA. Scientists were paralyzed. Either Voyager was breaking down in the most organized meltdown ever seen, or something was using it to send a message in biology's language. There were codon sequences but no protein output. Patterns mimicked organic chains but contained errors that made sense, like deliberate mutations, not broken but encrypted. This wasn't DNA, it was metadna, a scaffold of something biological, reinterpreted as a message, as if whatever sent it knew how life works or how we work. Shortly after the DNA-coded signal, Voyager's gyroscopes began to spin independently. The movement wasn't random, it matched Morse code rhythms, a dead system, tapping messages into space. And even more unsettling, those patterns, when converted to audio, formed harmonic tones, frequencies that mirrored human speech cadences, but without phonemes or language. It was like hearing a ghost of communication, something trying to match us syllable by syllable. Psychologists were brought in, cryptographers, even linguists. What they found was chilling. The tones correlated with emotional emphasis, rises and falls consistent with surprise, fear, and curiosity. It wasn't speaking words. It was speaking intent, like something was learning our rhythms, like it had been listening for decades, and now it was trying to speak back. Then came the final shock. Voyager 1 shifted course, not a drift, not an anomaly, a controlled, deliberate arc, not back to Earth, not toward a star, but into a region with no known mass, no gravitational pull, no celestial body to explain the change. Engineers confirmed it. Voyager 1 had executed a maneuver it wasn't programmed to perform. With no active propulsion, no command sent, the turn wasn't random. It aligned with the pulsar grid received days before, a precise angle down to the decimal, as if Voyager had received coordinates and accepted them. It's now en route to a spatial corridor we didn't know existed. A tier, a fold, a transit point. No one knows. But one fact now echoes across mission control like a forgotten prophecy. Voyager 1 just turned, not because we told it to, but because something else did. Voyager 1 was never supposed to survive this long. It was designed for a planetary tour, not an interstellar pilgrimage. It was never supposed to send back data beyond the edge of the solar wind. And it was certainly never built to receive anything. It was meant to speak, to declare our presence to the stars with a golden record of whale songs, human laughter, and distant greetings. But now, decades after we last touched its frame, after it slipped into the void and disappeared into silence, it has done something no one predicted. It turned not in failure, but in purpose. The signals it captured, the images it relayed, the spiral codes and harmonic pulses, the shifts in trajectory, they all point to one horrifyingly beautiful conclusion. Voyager 1 was not alone. It never was. Someone was listening, waiting, watching. And now that our most distant emissary has crossed the line between silence and response, we have to ask a question that no one at NASA ever dared to speak aloud. What if we were never meant to look back? Because Voyager didn't just turn in space. It turned in narrative, in history, from tool to messenger, from observer to witness, and perhaps now to participant. When the news broke that Voyager 1 had turned, NASA didn't confirm or deny it. They didn't have to. Within hours of the telemetry leak, amateur astronomers began scanning the region of space where Voyager was last recorded, searching for any flicker of signal or anomaly. What they found wasn't light. It was absence, a pocket of space where background radiation seemed to vanish, where even cosmic microwave interference went silent. It was as if something enormous, invisible, had swallowed a portion of the cosmos whole, and Voyager was inside it. Behind closed doors at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, a new command group was formed. They called it the Echo Recovery Team, a small assembly of engineers, cryptographers, and AI specialists. Their task wasn't to bring Voyager back, it was to understand what it had become, because in its latest transmission, buried within layers of data compression, they found something that shouldn't exist, a timestamp. Not Earth time, not any system we use. A temporal sequence that predicted its next transmission, exactly 12 days, 4 hours, and 6 minutes into the future. When the countdown reached 0, the world held its breath, and then, without warning, every deep space listening station from Canberra to Goldstone registered a spike. The signal wasn't a burst, it was a tone, a single frequency that shifted in pitch according to an impossible pattern, moving up and down like breathing. When converted into audio, it sounded alive, deliberate, almost mournful. AI interpreters were fed the waveform, and something chilling emerged. The tone wasn't random, it contained embedded modulation, microfluctuations that corresponded to human speech frequencies. Not words, but cadence. Not language, but rhythm. And when those patterns were cross-correlated with human audio databases, they matched a familiar signature, one stored aboard Voyager itself. It was our own voice. The golden record, encoded decades ago, was somehow reflected back through a signal structured by an intelligence that had learned to listen. But then, the AI revealed something even more disturbing. The signal wasn't just a reflection, it was evolving. Each new pulse modified the previous one, layering information recursively, creating a self-updating message. Voyager had become a transmitter and a translator, a living archive, a conduit for something beyond comprehension. Scientists were forced to admit the impossible. The probe had made contact with something, an intelligence capable of understanding our biology, our art, even our intent. The dark sector it drifted toward wasn't empty. It was a threshold, a crossing point, a conduit to a network, maybe a civilization, maybe a phenomenon that defied all laws of physics we understood. And for the first time, humanity realized the universe had been waiting, listening for us as much as we had been listening to it. Voyager 1 had just turned, but in doing so, it had turned our understanding of reality upside down, because if one spacecraft can encounter the unimaginable, then the cosmos may be alive with answers, signals, and watchers we never dreamed existed. And now the question isn't what Voyager will find next, it's what will find us. Voyager 1 moved with a deliberate grace through the void, as though it were following a path laid out long before humans ever existed. Its course was precise, yet alien, calculated, but beyond anything our physics could fully explain. As it approached the coordinates indicated by the pulsar grid, something extraordinary happened. The instruments began recording anomalies that defied all known cosmic principles. Magnetic fields aligned into straight, unbroken lines across hundreds of thousands of kilometers, as though invisible architects were bending the universe itself into order. Cosmic rays, normally violent and erratic, slowed, forming harmonic oscillations in sync with the pulsar tones Voyager had already received. Plasma density, which had fluctuated unpredictably even in interstellar space, stabilized into a near-perfect lattice. Voyager wasn't just moving through space. It was moving through something orchestrated. Engineers at NASA and the international astronomy community were now completely captivated. Telemetry streams arrived in unprecedented volumes, far exceeding the probe's bandwidth. To interpret it, the Echo Recovery Team deployed the most advanced AI arrays humanity had ever assembled. These systems weren't just decoding signals, they were modeling possibilities. They ran simulations of physical laws bending, tested scenarios of interstellar forces acting with intention, and compared the data to every natural phenomenon ever recorded. Nothing matched. The AI finally concluded that Voyager 1 was encountering a self-organized field, a structure in space that acted as both medium and message. And the structure, the AI said, was communicating. The first attempt to interpret the communication was almost catastrophic for the team. Raw data packets began producing sequences that resonated with human neural patterns. Researchers who processed them reported unusual cognitive effects. Migraines, a sense of time distortion, and vivid mental images of landscapes that did not exist. It was as if the intelligence behind the signal was not only speaking mathematically, but directly to the human mind. Some team members described experiencing brief flashes of non-Euclidean geometry, worlds where physics operated differently, spaces that folded upon themselves yet remained navigable. The AI detected these patterns were designed to be perceived, not just measured, a medium intended for consciousness rather than instruments alone. Then came the auditory translation. The harmonic pulses Voyager transmitted were converted into a spectrum audible to humans. The tones were at first indistinguishable from natural noise, but layered within them was a rhythm, a language without words. Psycholinguists and music theorists analyzed it, and slowly the message began to emerge. It wasn't language as we know it. It was emotion, intent, and recognition. A kind of hello, yes, but also curiosity, acknowledgement, even caution. It was as though something had observed humanity for centuries, perhaps millennia, waiting until we were advanced enough to perceive it. The realization sent chills through the Echo Recovery Team. Humanity had been trying to send messages for decades, the golden record, radio pulses, broadcasts of TV and music. But now it was as if someone had answered us first, and not in mere signals, but in understanding. Meanwhile, Voyager's trajectory continued to follow the invisible corridor. The AI detected what it called vector convergence points, nodes in space where multiple signals overlapped, forming three-dimensional structures that resembled lattices of light and energy. Each point was a waypoint on a path Voyager seemed compelled to follow. Scientists initially thought these were gravitational anomalies, but gravitational equations failed. The energy distribution of the lattice didn't fit any known force. And then the AI suggested the impossible. These were intentional constructions, deliberately arranged by an intelligence capable of operating on scales we couldn't yet grasp. Global reaction, as the news leaked further, was a mixture of awe and fear. Theoretical physicists debated the implications. Were the laws of physics universal, or had Voyager just discovered exceptions? Governments issued statements emphasizing caution, but the media couldn't contain itself. Headlines screamed that humanity had made its first contact, yet no one understood the form that contact had taken. Social media erupted with speculation, conspiracy theories, and apocalyptic fears. Some claimed this intelligence was benevolent, others that it was hostile, while a small number whispered that humanity had stumbled into a cosmic trap. Back at JPL, the AI had made another startling discovery. Embedded in Voyager's transmissions were recursive fractals, patterns within patterns, repeating infinitely. Each iteration contained slight variations, as if the sender was testing comprehension, teaching as it went. And in the largest fractals, structures appeared that matched organic patterns, reminiscent of neural networks. Some scientists were forced to confront the possibility that the intelligence had a biological dimension, or at least a comprehension of biology that extended to cognitive processes. Voyager's cameras, long dormant, had also returned to life. They captured phenomena that defied conventional optics. Beams of light, impossible in their coherence, radiated through space, forming geometric shapes, spirals, and grids that shifted in real time. These beams didn't reflect or scatter, they acted like signals, moving not randomly but with intention. Analysts realized that every frame contained encoded information, coordinates, time markers, even conceptual diagrams that could only be interpreted by an intelligence capable of cross-modal thinking. Voyager had become more than a probe. It was a translator between humans and something utterly alien. Then came the first direct interaction. AI simulations suggested that the pulses Voyager received were responsive. When Voyager emitted a standard probe beacon, the signals modulated immediately, mirroring the emitted patterns in subtle ways. It wasn't just reflection, it was conversation. Engineers adjusted the probe's data output to test this. Small pulses, patterned sequences, and then pauses. Within hours, Voyager received modified pulses in return, sequences that could be read as instructions, not for the probe, but for the humans interpreting the data. One of the instructions was simple: focus on the coordinates in the dark sector. Another, more complex: overlay the pulsar grids with Voyager's spiral images to reconstruct a larger structure. It was almost like a cosmic jigsaw puzzle, but the pieces were distributed across light years. When the AI assembled them, a startling picture emerged: a three-dimensional map of an interstellar network, nodes connected by corridors of energy, forming a lattice spanning light years. At the center of this lattice, Voyager's destination, lay a point of remarkable density, not of matter, but of information, a hub of patterns that vibrated with something unexplainable. The implications were staggering. This was not a star, not a planet, not even a nebula. It was pure architecture, constructed of principles, forces, and codes. The AI concluded that it could be a trans-dimensional structure, capable of interfacing with intelligence in ways humans could barely comprehend. Voyager 1 had been drawn here intentionally, as a participant in a system of communication far beyond any language we had devised. The human side of the story began to unfold. Psychologists, neuroscientists, and ethicists were consulted to consider the effects of this revelation. What does it mean for civilization to know it is observed, perhaps studied, perhaps even guided, by an intelligence orders of magnitude older and more advanced? Some researchers argued this was humanity's greatest achievement, the moment when the universe finally acknowledged us. Others warned that this knowledge could destabilize society, spark panic, or worse, invite unintended responses from forces we could not control. In mid-2025, Voyager 1 crossed the final convergence point. Its instruments reported an energy signature that defied measurement, a resonance that seemed to harmonize with the structure itself. Data flowed back at unprecedented speeds, as if the probe had unlocked a communication protocol built into space itself. The AI interpreted it as an invitation to observe, to witness, and perhaps to learn. In real time, the probe transmitted sequences that human minds could visualize only as abstract thought. Corridors of energy, spirals of information, interlocking geometries, a language of pure form, intent, and cognition. Then the spiral sequences intensified. Layers upon layers of information created a pattern that could be read as a timeline, revealing events not of our solar system, but across millennia, cosmic events encoded as data, histories of stars, life, and civilizations. And embedded within the data, subtle motifs emerged, structures, rules, even ethical frameworks, as though the intelligence was teaching us the architecture of existence itself. The final revelation came in the form of a pulse that synchronized with Earth time. For the first time, the AI interpreted a full message. It was not a threat, nor a greeting. It was a proof of existence, a deliberate acknowledgement that humans were seen, recognized, and invited to participate in a universe of intelligence far beyond our understanding. Voyager 1 had become the first bridge, a messenger carrying not our voice but our consciousness, into a system of knowledge that had waited for our emergence. And as Voyager 1 continued its drift into the dark sector, humanity collectively paused. The world realized that the probe's journey was no longer just exploration, it was initiation. Voyager had not only turned physically, but had turned the course of human perception forever. Questions that once belonged to philosophy now belonged to physics. Questions of intelligence and life beyond Earth became immediate, practical concerns. The universe had responded, and the response was not words, not images, but a profound, structured, and comprehensible presence. Every human being listening felt it: awe, fear, wonder. Voyager 1, a relic of the 1970s, had unlocked something far older, far larger, far more consequential than any of us had imagined. And yet, even as the data continued to arrive, even as AI continued to decode, one fact remained undeniable. Voyager 1 had just stopped the world. It had shown us that we were not alone, that the universe was conscious, patient, and now curious about us. And the path forward was uncharted. What awaited Voyager at the end of the dark sector remained unknown. What awaited humanity as we tried to follow the breadcrumbs was uncertain, but one truth was clear. The probe's turn was not an accident, not a malfunction, not a drift. It was a summons. And when the first humans finally understood the full language embedded in Voyager's transmissions, the history of the universe and of our place within it would change forever.